Alright guys, we just arrived at the Chino. If you guys are new here, we're doing a series in Hollywood, Florida, playing at the Seminole Hard Rock. And so far this trip, I've played mostly 2-5, 340 hours of 2-5 played so far, and around 42 hours, actually I know the exact amount, 42 hours of 5-10, 25 played. And we're currently up a total of just under 31,000. Last week I was up 40, so we are on a little bit of a downswing right now and hoping to climb out of it today. Probably not all in one day though, because I am just sticking to 2-5. I wanted to get at least 400 hours of that. A decently medium-sized sample. I don't want to call it a large at all. A large sample is more like 2,000 hours. So anyways, by the end of the year, hopefully we'll get that. And hopefully we can get a little bit out of this downswing. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the table. I get called for the 2-5, so I sit down with $1,000, which is the maximum buy-in here. And the first hand I get is Ace-9 offsuit in the hijack. I raise it up to $15, cutoff makes the call, and big blind comes along as well. So we're headed off to a flop 3 ways. And it comes out the ace of diamonds, queen of spades, deuce of diamonds. I'm in the middle of the sandwich here, given that there's a player in position to me. So when the big blind checks it over, this is a spot where I like to do a lot of checking to the in position player, even on a board like this, because they can even have hands like ace queen offsuit in their range a lot of the time, because not enough players 3-bet pre-flop, and especially the ones in this hand. So I check it over to the in position player, and he ends up betting $25. Big blind folds, so I make the call, given that I don't think my hand is strong enough for a raise yet. The turn comes out and it's a deuce of clubs. I check it over to him again, and he goes for an extremely small bet here of $30. To me, this bet looks really weak, and it probably has a bunch of hands like Queen X that's trying to deny some equity, maybe some weak ace that's just chopping against me, or some sort of random draw. And I think against that range, I want to do some raising. And I especially think if he has a draw, he's not really going to bet the river too often given the opponent. So I want to get some more money in now. I raise to $100. He makes the call. So that rules out his absolute air. The river comes out the jack of clubs. And I don't think my hand wants to do too much betting now, given that I don't think I'll get called by worse. Maybe queen jack calls me sometimes, but I'm not going to go for it. I check it over to him. He checks back, and we win versus jack 10 of hearts. At the Hollywood Hard Rock Casino, they do high hand jackpots, and they increase the amount on the weekends and the duration of how long it needs to hold for. Today, they're doing $1,000 every 20 minutes, and the current high hand jackpot has rolled over twice already. It's now at $3,000, and that plays a small dynamic on how this next pot's going to be played here. I have ace-6 offsuit in the big blind. Under the gun pro raises to $20, +1 whale calls, small blind calls as well, so I complete the action. This is usually a spot where I would not continue with a hand like ace-6 offsuit, given that I think I'm dominated by the other opponent's range, especially under the gun pro who raises to 20, and the other players can easily have a ton of ace-x that is stronger than mine, given that they're going to be flatting hands like ace-10 offsuit from out of position here. So again, this is the hand that I would usually fold, but I call because there's a massive jackpot where if I hit trips or even aces full of 10s, I'm going to win $3,000. So we're headed off to a flop, and it comes out the ace of clubs, the king of spades, the 7 of diamonds. Yes guys, we can't get too excited. It's super hard to hit the jackpot. I know maybe you thought I was hyping it up for that, but no. Check, 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 flop. The turn comes out, and it's the 8 of diamonds. It checks around to the in position player in this hand. He's a fun player. He ends up going for a bet of $25 here. Small blind makes the call. I think that these guys can have a ton of draws here. Weaker hands than mine. They might even be betting a hand like 8-9. So when the action's on me, I have a decision whether I want to call or raise. I believe raise is the better option here. We can deny equity from draws and get called by worse hands. So I bump it up to $100 here. I think I could have went even bigger, given that my ace has enough equity here, but it's $100 to go. The in position player ends up folding, but the small blind makes the call. When a player double flats, I think he's got a lot of draws. We're headed off to a river, and it comes out the 3 of hearts. He checks it over to me, and given my read on the turn, I still think he's got a ton of missed draws in his range, straight draws, flush draws, etc. So I don't really think I can get value from those. Sure, maybe sometimes he has a non-believing king, but I also believe he wouldn't have raised a hand like ace-5 on the turn. So we open ourselves up to maybe getting cooler by a hand like ace-3 if we bet here. And if I were to bet, I would go for maybe a size of like $150. Against his range, I should probably be putting out a bet. I think I have enough equity, but again, I just don't think he's got enough hands to call me with, given how the action has been played so far. So I check it back, and we're going to win versus a misdraw. Winning these last 2 pots has me feeling super confident to start this session, and when I'm in this zone, I feel unstoppable. Let's keep going. I've got pocket 6s in the cutoff. Low jack raises to $15. I make the call. Small blind whale calls, big blind calls as well. So we're headed off to a flop, looking to bink a set. It comes out the 9 of spades, 6 of hearts, and the 3 of spades. This is an absolute dream flop. It's the sort of flop where you can easily get cooled with a set because there's a ton of straight draws, and if they hit, we're probably not folding. But this is still a dream. Small blind actually leads out for $15 here, and I raise it up to $75, and he ends up making the call. Looks like he might have some sort of 9x, flush draw, or maybe a straight draw. The turn comes out and it's the 4 of hearts. Some hands make a straight here, like 5-7. He checks it over to me, and given that he leads sometimes, especially into multiple players, I'd assume that he doesn't have a hand like 5-7 here. I bet $200, trying to target a 9, and he makes the call. The river's the 5 of hearts. Backdoor flush gets there. He could have 9x of hearts. Man, even 7-8 gets there. This is just an awful card. But he checks it over to me again, so given his player type and that he leads sometimes, I believe I can squeeze a little bit of value out of him here from a 9, and maybe he assumes that I missed my flush draw on the flop. I bet $150. He thinks about it, makes the call. I flip over my set of 6s, expecting to be good enough here, and thankfully we win. He doesn't look too happy about it. We're going to take this one down, and I'm happy I wasn't scared to put out that bet. I've got pocket 8s, and this should be my favorite hand as I have the number 8 tatted on my chest. But guys, I still love aces. I'm not gonna lie, it's my favorite hand. Blame me in the comments, I don't know, but aces is my favorite hand. Makes sense, right? Anyways, I got pocket 8s in the big blind. There's a button straddle this hand for $10. So when small blind makes the fold, I make the call. I decide that I'm not gonna have a pure raising range from this position when there's a button straddle, and I end up calling with this hand. I think it's good. Whale in the low jack raises it up to $25, which is super small in consideration of how much is in the middle so far. The action's on the straddle player on the button. He makes the call. I think about limp re-raising, but this hand is just definitely not strong enough. I make the call. The flop comes out, king of clubs, deuce of clubs, 7 of diamonds. We check it over to the in-position player, the button, and he bets $30. I should fold because he's tight, but I have second pair on the board so far, and he only had to call 15 more pre-flop to see a flop. So I make the call here, thinking that I could be ahead of some 7x that makes a bet here, and maybe even some bluffs, even though this guy's tight. The whale folds. The turn comes out and it's the king of spades. No flush draw yet. I check it over to him, and he continues betting for the same size, $30. I know you might be thinking, easy call. There's a flush draw on the board, and he's still betting small. He's not too confident in his hand. But this player doesn't really know much about poker, and from what I've seen from him so far, he only puts money in the middle when he has something decent. So I actually think I could fold here. I debated it, but $30 is just so small, and if I hit an 8 on the river, I can maybe win a big pot here if he does have a king. So I call. The river comes out and it's a 7 of clubs. So the front door flush draw gets there, and now it's a double paired board. I check it over to him, and he goes for a bet of $50. It's so small. I hate these bets. These are like the worst spots in poker when you just know you're probably beat, but you're getting such a good price. Maybe he got counterfeit with pocket 6s as he was just betting small. Maybe he has some sort of random hand that he's bluffing with for small sizes. His turn bet size doesn't make sense if he did have a king. Maybe he's got a 7. The bet's too small. My GTO brain is saying, you're getting too good of a price here. So I stick in the call, and we get the bad news. I lose to king queen offsuit. So he's just got an absolutely nutted hand here. And now you guys probably have a decent insight of why I wanted to fold the turn, given that he only bet $30 with basically the nuts. Yes, I should have folded the turn. Maybe even the flop. Oh well. I'm feeling like frozen ice on a lake. Strong when together, but one crack and the whole thing could break. That's not what I plan to do with this session. One loss, that's okay. We're going to keep pushing. I have deuce 6 suited in the straddle. Small blind raises to 30. Big blind calls, and I call as well. The flop comes out 9-8-5. We hit a gut shot. Small blind ends up checking. Big blind bets $50. I make the call, and the small blind folds. Turn comes out the ace of diamonds. Seems like he might be scared of this card because now he checks it over to me. And I think that I can get a ton of hands to fold here. He might think that I was trapping on the flop. This brings in a lot of two-pair potential. I could have like ace-8, ace-5, ace-9. I bet $175. He tanks for a little while and then ends up letting it go. And this brings up an important side topic. When you're trying to bluff, you got to make sure that you're able to rep something credible and that you actually know what you can have in range for value when you are making that bluff. Super important. And in this spot, as you saw, I went over, I could have hands like ace-9, ace-8, ace-5, maybe even a hand like 8-9 on the flop that I'm trapping, 6-7 on the flop that I could be trapping sometimes. So super important to think about what you can actually have for value when you are putting that bluff in, because the more value hands you could have, the more credible your bluff is going to be. There's new table dynamics going on right now. We have the straddle going, and there's a massive whale in the game who everyone is trying to target, so this changes things completely. I have pocket queens in the big blind, and I await the action coming to me. Under the gun raises to $30. Button Pro ends up making it 100, isolating the whale as he's been doing for the last 30 minutes. I, of course, squeeze to $275 here with my pocket queens. The whale ends up jamming his whole stack in for $500. Not too surprised, I think he can even have a hand here like pocket jacks. Button folds, I make the call for $225 more. So we're headed off to a run out, and in the window I see a queen, so I immediately just table my hand. Run out comes out, queen, 8, 8, 10, deuce. So we're going to scoop this one, and we don't end up seeing what he had. We end up looking down at pocket aces and hijack. I raise it up to $30. Button makes the call. Small blind makes the call. So we're headed three ways to a flop. It comes out 5-5-6 rainbow. It checks to the button player who bets $25, a little bit less than 1/3 the pot. Small blind makes the call, and now I have a decision whether I want to call or raise. I think there's some merit in both. First of all, this is a board where they can definitely have the nut advantage. Way more 5x in range than I do. One guy would even play hands like 5-9 suited here, so just a ton of fives. And I don't think he would raise them all on the flop. So I don't think my hand is strong enough just yet to put in a raise. So I make the call. And there's not much equity that I need to deny either here. Of course they can have some straight draws, but that's okay. Headed off to a turn, and it comes out the jack of hearts. We all check. That's not exactly what I wanted to see, but again, it's fine. The river's a deuce of spades, absolute brick, and the small blind ends up leading for $125 here. Again, I think that he can have some 5x in range for sure still that was trapping on the flop. I debate if I want to raise or not. The first question is, if I raise here, will I ever get called by worse? I'm not too sure. I could definitely have some traps here as well. I could even have a hand like pocket deuces sometimes. So I decide that my hand just wants to call, and I end up beating pocket tens. So of course, after seeing his showdown, I feel silly for not raising at some point or getting more money in here. But it's not even guaranteed that he would have called anyway. Sometimes I like to have some traps in these spots, and this is definitely one of my strongest ones. If I had a hand like pocket queens on this flop, I'd probably lean towards check raising, because if an ace or king were to have come out, I wouldn't be winning as big of a pot, given that these guys probably wouldn't put any more money into the middle. Aces, ultimate trap here. Let me know in the comments if you think I could have played this pot differently and won more money. Maybe tens would have called me on a check raise on the flop, I'm not too sure. I look down at ace-queen offsuit on the button. Under the gun opens to $30, which he usually limp calls a lot pre-flop, so a raise from him probably means a stronger hand. Hijack ends up making the call, and now this is where my decision comes from. Call to 3-bet because there's more dead money in the middle, and I have a pretty strong hand, so I raise to $110 here, and they both end up making the call. The flop comes out the ace of spades, 9 of spades, 8 of spades. So I hit top pair with a pretty good flush draw. They both check to me, and like I said, this under the gun guy, he raised to $30 and called my 3-bet, which means that his range is going to have a lot of stronger hands in it. Probably hands like pocket nines all the way up to pocket queens, as well as ace king pure, because he would never 4-bet that pre-flop. So I'm not sure how I'm doing on this specific flop. I actually think that this hijack player can have a ton of hands like pocket eights, pocket nines, and this under the gun guy can have a ton of ace king. So I decide to check it back to see where I'm at on the turn. A little bit of an evaluation. We'll see what happens. The turn comes out the king of spades, so I hit the absolute nuts. They both check to me again, and this is now where you can probably make a case for just bet big to deny equity, from hands like pocket 9, pocket 8s, and 2 pairs. But I like to bet small in these spots, as I would be doing with my bluffs as well. And there are 2 players still left in this hand. I don't want them to fold their 10 of spades or their jack of spades yet, so I size down to $60. And it's only the under the gun player who makes the call. So we're headed heads up to the river, and I'm just hoping that the board doesn't pair at this point. But it comes out the ace of hearts. Super unfortunate card, and he actually decides to lead out on this card for $300. Well, my spidey senses are obviously tingling immediately after I see this bet, because what is he really trying to say that he has here? Would he really lead out with pocket 10s with a spade, pocket jacks with a spade? I don't think so, especially for $300, knowing that I could have aces, kings, ace, king, all in my range that I'm going to snap call. This card still favors me. I could definitely have some full houses here, even some flushes. So I just can't see a hand that I beat here, even though we have the nut flush and I 3-bet pre-flop, didn't get 4-bet. So I know some of you guys are thinking, how could he have ace king? Well, this specific player would for sure just raise call ace king offsuit and suited pre-flop. He would never 4-bet it. He almost never opens anything pre-flop either, even though his VPIP is like 50%. I also lose to a hand like pocket 9s here, but now my brain is starting to think about the other side of things. I have the nut flush. I don't lose too much here, and he bet $300 and the pot is pretty large. But I think there's absolutely no world here where he could ever be bluffing, so I make the disciplined laydown. I release my hand into the muck, and so does he. He then realizes that he just mucked a high hand jackpot winner. Well, it had to hold, but still, he mucked ace king apparently. That would have been good to be on the board for aces full of kings for $1,000. So that's super unfortunate to him, but it's kind of music to our ears because we know we made the right fold. This next hand is a classic battle between an old man and a young reg. I have pocket queens in the hijack. Under the gun opens at $30, the old man. I 3-bet to $100, and he ends up 4-betting us to $300. His starting stack with $900. I'm now in the tank. Is there any dynamic that could have got this guy to 4-bet me? Probably not. Also, older guys usually open a pretty tight range from under the gun. So would he ever look down at a hand like ace queen here and decide, I'm gonna 4-bet? Probably not. He might have even flat ace king preflop. So given that this guy's never finding hands like ace 5 suited, ace 4 suited, king queen, ace king enough, I end up just tank folding my hand. I think it's super important to get rid of these hands in these spots sometimes against players who you know are just never bluffing, even though we have a premium. Well guys, it's been smooth sailing so far in this session. Let's hope to continue that. I have ace king suited in the small blind, an absolute premium. Under the gun raises 35, so I 3-bet to 140. Yes, there is a straddle on this hand, so that's why the bigger opening size. He makes the call. I don't know too much about this guy, but he's probably like in his late 50s, handles chips decently well, so it looks like he knows a little bit about poker. The flop comes out ace, ace, 8, rainbow. I've hit the absolute nuts. In these spots on these boards, as the pre-flop 3-better, it's good to bet small because you're going to have hands like king, queen, pocket jacks, pocket 10s that aren't going to want to bet huge here, but your range just smashes this board, so it's good to bet it often. I bet $75 and he makes the call. Headed off to a turn, and it comes out the queen of hearts. I now think that if he has an ace himself and I check to him, he's probably going to always bet it, and he's going to start value owning himself. I also think that he could have a ton of ace queen. So if I go for bet jam, he might even fold a hand like ace 10, whereas if I check here, he might start value owning himself, and maybe we can lose the minimum to hands like ace queen and pocket 8s if he ever has it. So after some decision making here, I decide that I want to check sometimes on this specific card. So I check it over to him, and he unfortunately checks it back. So it doesn't look like he's got an extremely strong hand. Maybe he's got some sort of underpair to the board. The river comes out a 4, and I go for an overbet of the pot, $600. I see that he only has 950 left in his stack total, and he ends up jamming it all in. So from the absolute dream spot, dream flop, to an absolute cooler position now where we need to make a decision for $350 left. The pot's massive, and we have trips with the best kicker. How can I ever fold here? Especially after the turn went check check. He's now repping a full house though. Would he ever check those back on the turn? I just don't think so. Would he ever check back ace 4 on the turn? I don't think too often, especially the speed that he checked it back. So now this just feels super strange to me. I don't know what to think about it. I got ace king. How could I fold? Maybe we're chopping. I don't know. But man, my spidey senses are tingling now because it feels like that last hand where the guy bet $300 and you just know that you're not good. Like, you just know they're never bluffing. But this is a different spot. There's so much in the middle. I have a pretty strong hand compared to the board. And how the action was played so far, I played it weird. I played it tricky. So I think I just have to stack off here. I make the call and I end up losing to pocket fours. Man, this had me pretty tilted. I'm on a 10K downswing. I've ran bad within like the last 3 to 4 sessions, and I play solid throughout this whole session, but then get rewarded with this. And this just hit me right in the face. Bang, here's the 4, here's the full house, here's my stack. And of course, immediately what starts going through my mind and spiraling is, why didn't I just bet the damn turn? Betting $200 on the turn, pocket fours with a folded. That's the sort of mindset that you can't really have going forward, but those thoughts always creep up. And of course, I know a lot of you guys in the comments are going to say, just deny that equity. Why didn't you bet the turn? I saved my whole stack if I bet the turn, I know. But you play the hand a certain way, and sometimes the results aren't always as you want them. After this hand, though, I end up racking up my chips because it's been 7 hours into the session already, and I'm a little bit tilted. I realize it, so it's time to go home. That hurts for 2 reasons. One is because I've been running bad recently, and this felt like the session to get me out of that. Highest point was up 1,700. Would have been a nice little momentum shift for the trip. And 2 is because when you make an exploitative play, or when you make a decision that you feel is going to be plus EV in the moment, and then it bites you in the ass, it's not fun. And that's what just happened there. Checking the turn to him. If I bet the turn, he probably folds and we just win the pot. Of course, it's only going to happen around 4 to 5% of the time. I was in for a total of 1K, out for a total of 1,160. So we still made a profit, but it doesn't feel like it. Try to forget about it and move on to the next day. Tomorrow's Saturday. Going to be filming again, so I'll see you guys in the next one. And at this point, I'll already be in Toronto as you guys are watching this. 7 more days to go.